So good morning, ma'am, sirs, ladies and gents. So I'm here to introduce the HPO program for RCB. For those who don't know, RCB stands for Rifle Company Butterworth. It's an opportunity for our combat brigades to send a combat team under the stewardship of CO230 training group in Malaysia, and so they can get after some foundational warfighting in the jungle with the support of CTC and SOCOM, and they can also do some international engagement activities. So 5RR, who just returned, they did a lot of work in the jungle with the Malaysian Army, and they also did work with our US partners. Because as you understand, the main effort at the moment is to continue to support our partners in the Southwest Pacific to ensure freedom of movement and sovereignty of nations in the region. So first of all, I just want to acknowledge our supporters. So this program is actually a command-initiated program. So back in 2020, when Major General Elwood was the commander, he initiated this program. And he approached me as his senior psych and said, "Caitlin, I need you to address concerns we have about RCB to get after resilience and performance outcomes." So some of you may know Major General Elwood, who was very interested in getting the science into the art of war, and he's the brainchild behind the Brun Army. So the other supporters of the program are definitely the CO230 and the RSM at 230. So at the moment, that's Lieutenant Colonel Richard Trembath, and the RSM is Warrant Officer Class 1 Pete Mitchell. So what we're trying to do is work with the RCB to have a program for warfighters by warfighters. And we couldn't do this without the support of our partners in 2 Brigade 4Com. So a big shout out goes to the COs of the health battalions who, since 2 Brigade has been set up, have provided us with an RCB deployed psych the whole time. And so there's a task order now with Headquarters 4Com, should be down at 2 Brigade Ops, for a psych to go with 5-6 from 4 Brigade 2 Div over the Christmas period. So the RCB psych is required to do HPO, but also to be prepared to provide critical incident and risk management. So they say I don't have favourite psychs, I do. It's the psychs who deploy on the Christmas trip. So that was Captain Ali Lang, who deployed 2 Div, and she had a very challenging time, but we've fixed the organisational structure there with the CO. And then prior to that, it was Captain Sally Hood. These are both, one's an Army brat, Sally, so she just knows you go where service tells you to go. You don't pick and choose, you go at Christmas with the soldiers. And Ali is an ex-soldier. So I need a psych, and so does the commander. This is our promotional flyer. So the commander came and approached me back in 2020 along with the CO230 Paul Sanderson. The concerns they had was that we were getting a lot of complaints with UB, and this was affecting our reputation. So given the effort that we were now changing from support to the MEO to working in the Southwest Pacific and continuing our relationship with our partners, it was really important that the RCB set up a professional outfit. So what we realised is a lot of our RCB consisted of soldiers straight from IETs with hardly any experience with Army shakeouts or major Army exercises. So they didn't have the experience and they didn't have the resilient skills to actually handle the 3-month deployment. The other thing we recognised is that our corporals were all Lance Jacks promoted into the corporal position. So our soldiers were always doing what they should be doing, providing service and stepping up, but the commander was concerned that we weren't setting up our corporals to actually have training success. So he was wanting some mentoring around that. So what we did is we established, it's not the Mental Edge program, it's actually the HPO program because it's a comprehensive program. It consists of the Mental Edge program, which is our psych skills training, and that's adapted from the Canadian Special Forces Special Operators Mental Agility course. And then we have the MFT training, which is the mental fitness training that was developed by Associate Professor Monique Crane from Macquarie Uni. So the whole point of the program is to develop a combat mindset for our soldiers by upskilling them with the psych skills and then empowering our corporals and above with the mental fitness training, which is structured self-reflection mental fitness AAR. So our AARs normally look at the tactical, technical, continuous improvements. We're interested in the mental demands of training, and so Monique's got this cool acronym called CHAT UP. They can actually identify the mental demands of training, then they pick their resilient skills, whether it's the MEP or other things, and then they apply that to the activity, and then we do the MFAR afterwards. So this whole program sits, back a step. So with the MEP, this was adapted from the Canadian Special Forces Special Operators Mental Agility course that I had the privilege of attending along with a 2RR soldier, Private Alex Duggan, back in 2018 at the SOCOM HPO Symposium. And so what was significant about that is Private Alex Duggan is an exceptional soldier. He's pre-enlistment, he was a competitor with Royal Life Saving, so the first time he got right soldier for right fit, being an amphib. And he actually is the main advocate for this program. So he was able to tell me how he used psych skills to actually win a competition, and also, most importantly, when he got the wrong wave and he had to win the competition. But he also was able to tell me how he would apply the same skills to his role in Amphib with the PLF. So when I went to the commander, I said, there's this program that we could adapt, and he gave me permission to do so. And Paige Maddie, who was the sports psych from Soma, gave us the PowerPoint presentations. So we follow the same 12 modules, we deliver it in the field to the platoon groups, that's a sweet spot. Soldiers would prefer to have it in the sections, we just don't have the time and space for that at the moment. So that's what we do there. With the MFT, there are two self-structured interventions. There's the mental fitness AAR that's conducted by the section commander, supervised by the psych, and then there's the mental fitness training journal. So the soldiers get to be their own coach and to actually observe their own behaviour and work out the sustains, improves and fixes. What's really important if we want our soldiers to be interested in their training is they have to be accountable for their training. So we want them to set the goals, them to experiment with the challenges, and them to be accountable. So this is getting back to our old Army values of initiative. So what this program sits under is the Commander's philosophy and values. So Commander Collingburn would tell you, tell you, 1st Australian Division is all about a unit of action and warfighting. So it's important when our soldiers are in battle that they understand where their combat mindset is at and their why. Otherwise, they have distractions and hesitation. So with 2CR 214, who deployed now under the leadership of OC Madison Cullen from 2CR, their main value that they've come up with from their module is dependability. So I think that's really important when we're talking about the importance of trust and accountability. So this is what's going to align them to what's important, what good looks like. But with the MEP, we're not interested in that. We're interested in when we're challenged and we deviate from that. What does that look like? What are the combat indicators and how do we reset? And that's the same with the MEP with the psych skills. If we are trying to get the ideal reaction, ideal performance state, then what does it look like when we're not, when we've made a mistake or what have you, and what do we do to reset to come back in, to activate or deactivate? All right, so the strengths of our program, these are based off the Soma lessons learned. So it has to be command initiated. So what interests our boss interests the heck out of us. So the training directives specifies that they will do foundational warfighting, achieve the ATLs, they will do the international engagement activities, and they will continue to develop the HPO. So the commander says this is important as part of our op prep. It's evidence-based, based on psych skills training by a sports psych, an Olympic champion, Paige Maddie would say, with curling. And we also had Associate Professor Monique Crane evaluate the program with positive HP effect. It's co-designed because we want a program that's by warfighters for warfighters, and this is because we have to have the combat credibility in order to increase the engagement. It's also developed as a multidisciplinary team, so we have command with the RCB coaches, which are the junior NCOs and above, supported by the RCB Psych. So this is actually how we are actually training psychology. I've been in for 30 years now as a signaller and then as a psych officer. Psych is the only discipline in Army that we do not train as we fight. So if you look at our healthies with the tactical care of the combat casualty, they do it in the PowerPoint, then they do it in the round robin to do your tourniquets, etc., and then they do it under the lanes of fire. So this is what we're trying to do with our HPO program, to help our soldiers train as we fight and to keep them in the fight. It's also done outfield and applied to a performance context, and this is really important because, again, it's how we learn to train our soldiers. So if we want to build resilience, we must stretch our soldiers outside their comfort zone, and that's what Army has always understood with our training. But then what we're trying to do here is support them with the psych skills and develop their combat mindset that way. The benefits are, because it's for 12 weeks, they see the psych in the field, supporting command, supporting the soldiers, so we're actually breaking down the stigma associated with mental health and with barriers to care. So Ryan, who was the captain who went over with 5RR just recently, he confided in me that a soldier had told him that he had been struggling with mental health his whole career, no risk, but now that he saw what was happening and how the psych was there to keep them in the fight, he's now going to go and see psych to address his issues. So from this, the big development and win this year, the number one thing is the C2. Actually having command and control of the combat brigades has been significant because I'm able to talk already with 2DIV and the OC of 4 Brigade, 564 Brigade, and we've set up the intro to HPO for the 12th of November. All we're waiting on is a psych. So from the CO and the RSM's perspectives, the statements that I haven't covered. The big thing for Richard is that the soldiers have access to support outside the chain of command in the field that command trust that they're going to keep in the fight, and we're developing their combat mindset by upskilling with the psych drills. The other thing that Richard is really proud of is the op readiness of our actual psychs. So he believes that the psychs, by getting exposure to what combat team demands go through, then they will be better for it, and so that'll be better for Army. And finally, he does say, yes, it is a cost to the 1st Australian Division and 2 Brigade 4Com in time and training to get a psych for 3 months, and also because we take some time out of training to focus on this program, but he believes it's a high value return for Army in the long run. So our wins with 1RR. So when I went up there to do the pre-deployment, one of the cheeky soldiers came up to me and said, "Hey ma'am, don't mean to be rude, but why are you here? We don't have problems." So this is what soldiers think of psych, and I can understand that, having been a Ready Reserve soldier. You have a problematic soldier, or recruit, sorry, and they go and see psych, you never see them. So that is what soldiers think of psych. You see a psych, you don't see anyone anymore. So I said, well, that's good to hear, mate, because what that means is that 1RR, we've got good leadership, good morale, good team cohesion, and you're getting after and fighting for this RCB training. And that's what I'm here for. My corps was established to actually support command and enhance capability. So together we're going to work out how we're developing this combat mindset program, and we're going to keep you in the fight. Pat Box, who was the OC, then reinforced that message, and then Cam Bartlett, who was the psych, who went out forward, did that as well. The other thing that Cam did is we talked to the treatment team, and so the medics in the field, they were required to do the triage for health, which included mental health. So the only way they got to see Cam was through the CO, OC or MO for psych-related stuff. Okay, so we were resetting the whole expectation of what a psych is about. So before they deployed, I said you're deployably fit, so that means you're mentally fit. So that's what changed. And so because Cam was also out there, he was able to do the real-time support to command decision-making. With 5RR, the biggest win there is that this is the first time since 2020 that we've actually had an RCB psych deploy with their combat brigade. So Ryan's from 1HB, he's deployed with 5RR. I spoke to the CO of 5RR last week, Hugh Grogan. He's already read the PAR, he knows what Ryan's done for them. So we're looking at how we can expand this program into 5RR or to 1 Brigade, maybe with Exercise Predator Warrior, to get after the wins. But what I'm really interested in is what it looks like in the brigades, because the whole problem with brigades is time. The other thing for Ryan is that he actually got all the op readiness. He not only had to do HPO, but he was involved, there was a critical incident, fortunately no serious injuries or fatalities after a motor vehicle accident, and 5RR had one prior, and so he had to do the SIMS response. He also had to do the risk management for 2 soldiers who had the courage to put their hand up. Those 2 soldiers, because the COOC and the psych worked together with that soldier, those soldiers, they were able to see that they had the resilient skills to stay in training, to get after it with their mates and return home with their mates. So we had the whole of 5RR deploy, the whole of 5RR come home. And they know that they can trust in their command to keep in the fight and to do their job. So that's the big win. With 2CR 214, the best thing there was with the pre-deployment training, the OC and the SSM were actually able to attend that, and that's important because what interests my boss interests the heck out of me. So Madison also was able to carve out some time, so we got the first MEP module, Foundational Beliefs and Values, done during pre-deployment, and then during RSO&I we got the goal setting done for all the platoons, so now they're stepping off into the field, well they're in the field now, and they'll be able to do the rest of the MEP and start the MFAAR. So this is the quote from Major Greg Sargent. He and his team, Warrant Officer Potter and the Captain Jasmine Wilkes, they were responsible for the research with Monique Crane. It's good to see that Greg was awarded with the King's Award for his service with Op Kudu. But this program was started by a 5RR soldier, being Major General Elwood, and now I'm really glad that we might be able to expand it with 5RR. This is a program for warfighters by warfighters, and we're keen to see it continue. The big thing is that you have to consult with command. That's the big thing, and you have to consult with the warfighters. So with RCB, because we've had full support, it's worked, and it's a cost, but they're prepared to do the cost. So why I'm interested with what 5RR do is because they're going to tell me how it can work, and that's how it will work. There is an opportunity, thanks to Jill being a mediator, to collaborate with the ACMP. Psych skills training, there's only so many ways. For instance, you can teach goal setting. It's value driven, it's performance goals, and it's SMART principles, right? So as long as the modules that overlap, the training is standardised, so we're sending the same message, that's all we need to do. For OneDiv, we've actually got a combat viewee TUI that we've developed because we keep talking to the warfighters. One armoured went through, said we can't do PowerPoint settings, it doesn't work because we're out in the field now. RCB is now very intense, we're basically out in the field. So we have a one-pager, viewee TUI, goal setting, foundational beliefs, all the rest of it. That's what's working. But the big thing I think with 3 Brigade and with all our brigades will be, how do we get the time? So that's what I've always asked all our RCBs. I've always said to the OC, what would this look like back in Australia? They cannot tell me. So I personally do think it's going to have to be against PT to start off with. We have it all the time. We can get our PDIs to know this stuff. And how it would work is it's performance psych. So the psych is like you do with AFL, the psych is back here. You're training your coaches, you're giving them the empowerment of the skills, they do it. And if we're really truthful, like it's all about the road to war. So in the field, our corporals and above are going to know this stuff. There is nothing clinical. However, you do benefit from having a psych because they have that theory behind it, like self-determination, all that sort of stuff, which we apply to this. So if warfighters want it, we want to do it. But with Jill and Bianca, we're going to try and see how we can get a program to fit this gap.